All right, guys. Good morning or good evening. Good night for some, maybe. Can you hear me? Now, there's going to be a little bit of a delay between the audio and the text, I think. So let's have a look. I've switched on my camera. I'm still screen sharing. Let's see how we can do that. All right, there I am. Hello, guys. Yes, okay, you can hear me. Great. Happy to hear that. Sounds good. A few familiar names up there again. Mark Dexter. Hello, Mark. Long time no see. Andrew. Here's Edda. And a lot of new people. I see we've got people from Italy, New Zealand, US, Canberra, UK. Great. Welcome. We've got a full agenda, so I'm going to start fairly quickly. Now, it's going to be a bit improvised, as it usually is. I'm still relatively new to this whole webinar thing. I had prepared a nice presentation, as you know, with transitions. That didn't work, so we'll have to work with the simple PDF version. But I will make a nice ebook available with all the details later on. Now, usually this stuff works fine because we use Google Hangouts as our video engine. Now, it depends on your bandwidth, whether it works at your end or not. So if it doesn't, be patient. If you get disconnected, just reconnect, go into the link that you used to come in the first place. And there will be a replay. So once we've finished, there'll be a complete replay of this webinar, and that will be streamed from YouTube, so it should be really easy to watch that. You can even download it. I am planning on making that available for free to the people who have attended. Those who have not attended, they get a trimmed version, a censored version, and they will have to pay $9 for that. You'll also get that ebook for $9 at the end. I'll give you a link where you can pre-order. I'm planning on including the questions that come into this webinar, answering those in the ebook as well. Okay, I think I need to start a recording here as well. People have asked me why I use two. Oh no, I'm recording good. Why do I use two sets of headphones? Well, one is the feedback of the microphone. The other one is the computer. I'm not entirely sure whether I need both today, but hey, just to be sure. Good, let's get started. I'm going to start sharing my screen and then talk you through the slides. It's now 11:07 in Sydney on Saturday morning. I planned to do this in 45 minutes, but I've already realized going through it that there's quite a lot I want to share with you. We'll see how we go. So, how can we change the... for this? Yeah, it works. Great. All right. So this is the quote from Stephen King: "Amateurs sit and wait for inspiration. The rest of us get up and go to work." Now, that's easier said than done. Mr. King has a nice income from his creative endeavors. We're not quite there yet. So some of us have a day job, and when we return home, we simply don't have the energy to start a creative endeavor. So our problem really is time. And before we can talk about what we do and do that most efficiently, we need to create time. Now, time can be created through productivity. So if we increase our productivity, we can increase our time. So where our problem is no time, in the course of this webinar, my intention is to show you how you can create some. And from my own experience, it is possible, and it can be quite spectacular what results you get from this. Before we start, however, I'm going to teach you a few words in the old sacred language of the Theravada Buddhism, the Pali. 3 words you need to know. The first word is called Suttamaya Panya. Now, Suttamaya Panya means theoretical wisdom. I'm giving you a lot of tips during this webinar, and that's nice. So you can put those to memory, and that's wisdom you have. But it remains theoretical. You know, you can just take it at face value, believe it or not, but it remains theoretical. It would make a lot more sense if that would become Chintamaya Panya. Now, Chintamaya Panya is intellectual wisdom. That's when you get it, when you see the logic in what I'm teaching you. Now, it's not the ideal way of acquiring wisdom, but we're quite on our way. The third and the preferred type of wisdom is called Bhavanamaya Panya. Bhavanamaya Panya is the experiential wisdom or the practical wisdom. And that's what we're going to focus on. Ultimately, you need to put this to practice. There is absolutely no point in sitting through this webinar and not trying any of this stuff. You would actually be wasting time rather than creating time. So it's all about taking action. And I hope that you will do that after this. Taking action, you don't really have to start today or tomorrow if you're not in the mood, because sometimes if you're not quite there yet, it could work detrimental, and you're not getting the results that you need. But when you start, you need to make that firm commitment and you need to follow through. You'll also need support. And with that support, you need to tell others that you're doing this, then they can remind you, they can nudge you. And this is where I can help as well. As I said, there'll be an ebook. There may later also be some online resources to make sure that you stay on track. Because I know how I am. I've done a number of courses recently, and the only ones that really work are the ones that keep me accountable. So I'm trying to set something up to help you with that as well. So here is the three things you need to keep in mind when taking action. It's also about you. I cannot know what is best for you. All I can do here is give you my experience. I tell you what worked for me, and that's really firsthand. I'm not collating stuff from the internet, as many people do. A lot of teachers make their money by just taking the best from the internet and then pass it on. That's not what this webinar is about. I have tried a number of these things, and I'm only sharing with you what has been tremendously successful, what has given me great results. Ultimately, you need to design your own. You need to design your own program. You need to adjust everything to your own liking. Try and refine. But there too, I can help. And again, you can follow a program in setting up a number of strategies, a number of routines to make it work for you. And then thirdly, this whole thing will take time. Now, some of these results will be immediate. I know this. I have had results overnight, so that will happen for you as well. Other aspects of this webinar, some of these tools will only show the results after a few days. But the core habits will take a lot longer, and that could take 4 weeks or even longer. For instance, if you starting with meditation is not an easy thing. Getting up an hour earlier is not an easy thing. So give yourself time. Do not get disheartened if it doesn't work within the course of 1 week. Again, my resources that I'm working on, they will take this into account, and that will be a program of 4 or 5 weeks. And yes, you will need a refresher. You will need to come back to this. That's why I'm going to make this webinar available to you guys forever as a replay. You can come back and listen to it whenever you like. And you'll need that, because some things you will forget. You will need a refresher. You'll also notice that some things you don't pick up the first time around. I have that. I go to courses, I take repeaters, and my Story Series students know this. You think that I'm telling something new, but I'm not really. It's just the first time around, it didn't sink in. And that's why you need, particularly in this area of your life where you want to make significant change, you need to come back and revisit it. And that's why you need that ebook and maybe some training after that as well. So this stuff is useless without taking action. You need to commit to that. Again, you're wasting 45 minutes if you're not doing this. It is about you, not about me. So I'm sharing you what worked with me, for me, and you need to adjust that. And you also need to accept that it will take time. Now, what does it need? What do you need to be productive? I think there are 3 things, really. The first one is energy. I think that's the most important one. Your body needs to be on the same wavelength. Your body needs to be working with you. You need to have the energy to start with this program and to put all these practices in place and to use the tools and do the work. You also need the right mindset. That's a tricky one. Once you've sorted those out, you can start using the efficiency tools. That's more the practical step by step stuff. But energy and mindset are critical. I'm going to spend most of the time on the energy side, because that's where I find I've made tremendous progress. I'm 50 now, and I can tell you, and this is in all honesty, I feel fitter, healthier than I was at age 33. It's not hard. These things are fairly simple. It's just a matter of putting your head to it and doing it, taking action. Quick overview of what we'll be dealing with. I'll look over my morning routine. I'm going to give you a fair amount of detail. In the ebook, there'll be even more detail. We'll go down to the recipes even, or the types of supplements I take. I'll show you how to keep energized throughout the day. There are a number of tools and apps that will help. I've limited it for this webinar to 7, but there are more. And I want to include, in the ebook, I want to include a specific set that works for writers, because I have tried lots and lots of writing applications, ultimately to settle for a handful that I think are extremely useful. And now, keep in mind, I am aware that many of you are not on a tremendous budget. All this creative stuff is not bringing in money, so it needs to be affordable. And everything I'm recommending here should be affordable. I don't like spending a lot of money either, so I've tried stuff and I've always settled for what I find is the best value. And I am not affiliated with anyone I'm recommending here. You need to know that. So I'm not taking a cut from any of the apps I'm recommending or programs I mentioned. Goal setting, I go straight against what some of the business coaches say, because I think things work differently for creatives. I'll explain what I mean by that. I will touch very briefly on dealing with money, because I'm not an expert, but I learned a few things there and I want to share that with you. And ultimately, before we switch off, I'll talk about switching off in many ways. It's critically important as well. Let's see if you're still all with me. Someone has sound issues there, but I think that is still an isolated event. I think everyone else is good. Clive says Stephen King had once a day job teaching. Interesting. Yeah, that is a tiring job. I can fully confirm. So all good. Let's go to the first part. It's really the most important and the most exciting part. It's where I've made the greatest difference over the past few years. My morning routine. This was me. This was me before 2013. I was a full-blown night owl. From my 20s until 3 years ago, I did most of my work at night. It was when I was inspired. It was when I could continue working because I didn't have any distractions. And I would forget the time and suddenly the sun would be going up. And I'm sure some of you recognize that feeling or that experience. Let's talk about the night owls versus the early birds. I'm not saying that you all now need to become early birds, but it is worth trying because things are very different. I found that being the night owl, working from often 11 p.m. until 4 a.m., I achieved heaps, but it would really have a negative impact after. It would have a severe fallout the following day and days. And ultimately, I had to ask myself, what's the net gain? And I came to the conclusion that the damage of a whole night working through was greater than the benefit. So I tried the early bird thing, and now I swear by it. I love it. And yeah, you know the same. Now, what does that morning look like? Here, this is that Chinese proverb I picked up from Malcolm Gladwell's book, Outliers, and that really stuck with me. No one who can rise before dawn 360 days a year fails to make his family rich. Maybe not to be taken literally these days, but yes, rising before dawn has something special and does something to your productivity. And even if you are a night owl, I'm sure that what I'm going to share with you during this webinar will help in all your achievements, whether this is throughout the day or the night. The morning routine has that word routine. Some of us don't like that. In fact, I hated it. I hated the concept of routine. I thought it was boring. I thought it sounded like doing things without thinking, and it certainly lacked creativity. I still struggle today. I'm not easily committed to a routine, but for the morning, I've managed to do it, and now I really love my morning routine. There are a number of benefits. It's simple, it saves energy, and it works. And the one thing I haven't put on this list that's maybe the most important one for the morning is when you wake up, typically your willpower is low. It's very hard when you open your eyes and is cozy in bed to get up and start the whole drudgery. Now, if that's a routine, if you do it every day, you don't think about it anymore. You just do it, and it becomes a lot easier. I love this saying where people say, 100% is a breeze, 99% commitment is a bitch. So I've committed to a routine. Here is my routine. I'm giving it to you in detail. Now, this is my ideal routine, and the times are no later than. So my alarm is set for 5:40 or earlier, and I get up with an app. We'll get into detail in a minute. Then I perform the 5 Tibetans. Really interesting concept. Bear with me, I'll tell you what that is. Then I drink a glass of water, my last glass of water of the day, and have a shower. 6:15, I start my meditation, and I should be ready for breakfast no later than 7:20. Now that's nice. That means that by 8, I'm ready to get up and go. So what app? There are a number of apps, and I cannot recommend them highly enough. What these apps do, at least the ones that work, because I've tried a number of these, and the ones that work are the ones that monitor your movement during your sleep. Because the smartphones these days have, I think it's called accelerometer or something. They measure movement, and during your deep sleep, you don't move as much as during your light sleep. It's common sense, but it gets into these graphs, and your alarm is connected to it. So these apps will not wake you up in your deep sleep. And I guarantee you, it makes a world of difference. In the past 3 years, I've only woken up in a daze once. And it's because I was severely overtired, and I went to sleep over lunch, and I had to get up, and I was in a deep sleep. It was horrible. And I realized I had not experienced that for many years, just because I had been using these apps. So yes, only a few dollars investment in these apps will really give you tremendous benefit. It shows you how long I sleep, when I go to bed, what my rise time is, and it also gives you some efficiency measure. Don't know what that means, but there is a correlation between how I feel and what it tells me. Then the mysterious 5 Tibetans. There's a whole book about it, and I recommend you read it. Details will be in the ebook I make available. The 5 Tibetans are in fact simply 5 yoga poses that you perform 21 times. The whole myth around the Tibetans is that apparently there were some monks in the Himalayas in Tibet who were performing this specific set of yoga poses, and they were healthier and stronger, and they lived longer than anyone else. So obviously I went for that, and not only because of the book, but I had been looking for a way to deal with back issues. I had back issues, and no one could help me. I'd been to a chiropractor, tried swimming, nothing worked. Then I started the 5 Tibetans, and I've been fine ever since. So these are the Tibetans. I can give you a link to a video later on. Basically, first one is like dervish dancing. It's just rotating 21 times. Next one, you lie down and then put your legs up and at the same time your head. Third one is while you're sitting kneeled, you bend over backwards 21 times. And the fourth one is you sit as in the image here, you sit straight, and then you move from this position to what they call tabletop, which is, the lower legs vertical, and then your body horizontal. And the last one is alternating downward dog and upward dog. Very simple, 21 times each, takes you no more than 10 minutes, and that's all exercise. And it's not even exercise. Yoga is not exercise. This is all movement I do throughout the day. And the results are pretty amazing. Then I have my last glass of water of the day. Every day, right after the yoga practice, 1 glass of water. And after that, I never, fill a glass at the tap, because I drink different things. And I'll tell you what that will be. So that's my last class. You saw on the schedule what time that is. Then we go to the meditation. This may work, but I recommend a place of quiet and solitude, and that may work better. How long you do it, it doesn't really matter. You can build it up. I started with 20 minutes. For years, I did 20 minutes, and then built it up because I started practicing Vipassana, where you need to sit for at least an hour. And again, that was surprisingly easy. If you think you cannot sit for an hour, well, you can. If you can sit for 5 minutes, you can sit for 65. That's exactly what I did. I built up 5 minutes additional every week. And over the course of 2 or 3 months, you can sit for an hour. Easy. And the effects are unbelievable. When I reached 45 minutes of meditation, I actually needed 30 minutes of sleep less. And that has never changed. So yeah, I slept for about 6 hours and 45 minutes. These days, I don't need more than 6 hours and 15 and even less. So meditation, I swear by it, have been for 3 years. My practice is Vipassana. Again, more detail will be in the ebook. Then, I'll look at this. I am an absolute bread maniac. I love bread. I'm European. I bake my own. However, in my breakfast, there's no bread. Sadly, I leave my bread for supper, for dinner, and there's a reason. The food experts, and and I need to say everything I say here about vitamin supplements, nutrition, you need to take with a grain of salt. Do your own research. Ask your doctor. I'm not an expert, and I take no responsibility for the effects. I just tell you that for me this worked. Bread makes me tired, and it's probably the gluten, the wheat. It doesn't work for me. I had to cut it out. So I eat it at night, which actually helps me to get tired, which I need at the end of the day. In order to go to bed, I need to be tired. So I leave my bread for the last meal. This is what my breakfast looks like. It looks horrible, doesn't it? Well, it's actually quite yummy. And I designed my own version of this in close collaboration with my son, Baxter, who loves it too. We've added all sorts of ingredients over time, and we keep adding new stuff, and it's become quite interesting. I'll put the list in the ebook. The seeds in there, there's shredded apple, there's ginger, dried prunes. It gives you an enormous amount of energy, and that's energy that lasts for quite a while. So I can recommend it. It's very easy. I prepare in advance sometimes for a whole week, and yeah. I mean, I don't have much time. I'm not a huge fan of cooking. So this is convenient. It's convenient. It's really easy. And in terms of taste, over time, we figured something out that we both like. So here it is. I add some supplements to, in short, vitamin C, zinc, magnesium, turmeric, and that's about it. I also take some antihistaminic because I have suffered from airways for a while, so that often helps as well. So that's my morning. That's my breakfast, rather. And then, as I said, it's 8 o'clock. And with that routine, boys and girls, those 2 hours and 20 minutes, they were 100% productive. I feel at 8 o'clock, I am at cruise speed. I don't have that morning feeling anymore. And I can guarantee that my day will be successful. It'll be as good as it can possibly be. I feel healthy and strong. So bring on the day. And I'm sure that you should be inspired by this. You should try it, and I guarantee it will work. So you need to go into your day with a certain mindset, and this mindset works both creatively and professionally. Now, creatively, I must say I was quite inspired by the quote from Bo Willimon, the writer of House of Cards, who said at BAFTAs, I think a few months ago, his first conscious thought every day is, I am going to die. Now, that sounds morbid, but what he basically says is that he wants to make the best of every day, live every day as if it's the last. But it's just a different way of saying it. And that's how Bo Willimon approaches it. I think when you have that in mind, that can push you to really do what you're supposed to do, to really bring the best out of yourself. Now, professionally, obviously, you need to make a living. You need to make sure that your time is used in a sensible way. And you could track your activities. There's an app for that, obviously, that tracks what you do on the computer every day, all day. And then you can look at the graphs and you see the breakdown of where you were productive and where you weren't. There too, I can give you some recommendations, apps that I've tried. But yeah, use your time productively and monitor it. Sometimes you don't want to. You want to give yourself free play because that's what creativity is often about. But there are times when you want to be dollar productive, as they say. So it's a mindset that you need if you go into the day with that mindset. It really pays off. Now, obviously, we have that energy, and it slacks off. It tails off over the course of the day. That's not what you want. You want to keep energized. I've got a few tricks for you. First of all, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my caffeine routine, something that was refined over a number of years. I'll talk about snacks. Talk about lunch, not so much because I haven't really figured that out, and I definitely don't have the discipline to stick to what works. And then I'll talk about the Pomodoro method of doing your work. First of all, coffee. As much as I love bread, I do love coffee. I mean, a really beautiful black espresso, no coffee, no milk. It's the best. And I used to have a triple espresso in the morning, a quadruple espresso in the morning, and another quadruple espresso in the afternoon. Now, you may see that one coming. It's not healthy. And at some point, I had to stop because I had palpitations. Now, I didn't want to cut out coffee because I love the taste of it so much. So I tried decaf. And I know what you think. I know what you're saying. Decaf is not the same. Well, it is. If you've got the right beans, decaf can be just as amazing as caffeinated coffee. If you use beans that were decaffeinated using the Swiss water process, which is the only one that you should really buy, then the taste should not be affected, because the Swiss water process, what it does is just removes the membrane around the bean that contains the caffeine. And the best cup of coffee I've ever had in my life was a decaf coffee prepared just for me by a barista who wanted to prove a point. So what do I do with my coffee? Because I do want a little bit of caffeine, not too much, I've designed my own mix. I source decaffeinated beans, the best beans in Australia to my taste. And again, they are affordable. I've tried beans from 3 different states, and now the best beans come from Melbourne. I order them every 2 months or so, grind them at home, and I mix them with normal coffee. And my coffee is just amazing, only half caffeinated. So that's that. That, again, rather than being super energized in the first hour and then fall asleep after that, this routine keeps me at a normal level of intensity. I do then have another one later in the day as well, but no later than just after lunch. Tea. Tea is my water. I read an article on BBC News Online a few years ago that stated that tea is effectively better than water. It does not dehydrate, and it contains a lot more healthy stuff. So you can easily replace water with tea and, just drink tea throughout the day. There too, I've developed a routine, because we got to think about the caffeine, because black tea has a lot more caffeine than herbal tea or rooibos or even green tea. So in the morning, right after my coffee, when I start working, I'll have my first cup of tea, and I'll have green tea after that. I have green tea in the afternoon and herbal tea at night. That's pretty much the routine. And again, I'm a creature of habit, and in the ebook, I give you exactly what type of tea I drink when. But that works amazingly to keep that energy level at the right intensity. I do snack more than I should, but I've learned to have more or less healthy snacks. I'm a sucker for nuts. I love raw cashews. I love almonds. They're really good for you. Unfortunately, they're expensive, but I'll tell you where to get them. If you have Aldi in your country, and Aldi is a lot of places over the world, check out, because Aldi may have raw cashews and raw nuts at a price that you can't find anywhere else. So get them there, and eat nuts. They're good. I do eat coffee. I do eat chocolate. I used to eat my coffee, but I do eat chocolate. I love dark chocolate. Used to eat the Whitakers, the New Zealand chocolate, but they were at some point doing something with their price that I thought was quite manipulative, and then changed over to some Coles dark chocolate that I quite like. Anyway, you pick yours. If you look at most of your diet, you can afford a snack every now and then. Don't cut it out. I'm not a vegetarian. I'm not a total hippie. I just use food to keep my energy level, and at the same time enjoy it as much as possible. Lunch, what can I say? Very irregular. The one thing I've stopped doing is having bread lunches, because, okay, I get this. And this is something I shouldn't be sharing. But anyway, a number of years ago, I had a bread lunch before I was supposed to meet with a client. And I kid you not, I fell asleep mid-sentence. I was sitting in front of this client, and it was, I was struggling so hard not to fall asleep, and I lost. And I was saying something, and halfway the sentence, I forgot what I was saying, and then I completed the sentence. It must have been complete nonsense from the look on the face of the client. So that could not happen again. I mean, this was a severe instance of food coma, and it completely changed once I cut out the bread. That luckily never happened. But yeah, I mean, have you ever fallen asleep half sentence? Put it in the comments. I'd love to hear your version of this story. The pomodoro. Pomodoro is Italian for tomato. It was inspired by the old kitchen timer in the shape of a tomato. It is a method to segment your tasks, your work throughout the day, and do your work in bits. 25 minutes and then a short break. And after 3 pomodoros, you have a longer break. Obviously, there are heaps of apps. In fact, there's an app that I was already using that you could perfectly use for this as well. And I'll show you which one that is when we get into the segment about the apps. But the Pomodoro method will segment your time and make you a lot more productive. So let's talk about the tools and the apps. That's probably my second favorite segment, because I am a geek. If you know me, I love software more than the hardware gadgets. I love trying new applications, but I'm also a realist and I want to be productive. So if it doesn't help me, if it doesn't support me, if it doesn't benefit me, I will stop using it. I settled for seven that I think you must have as a creative, that will save you time, that are often fun using. First one, actually a general principle, I do not like mice. I don't know about you, no matter how cute they are, I do not like them. Doesn't matter how beautiful they are, and I recommend against them. Cut them out, don't use it, or use them as little as possible, because the movement from your mouse to your keyboard, it may help with RSI, that may be a good thing, but ultimately it will not save you time. You'll save heaps of time if you just use your keyboard. People who edit video know that there are shortcuts. You must use those shortcuts. You can't professionally edit video if you don't use those shortcuts. On Final Cut Pro or Premiere Pro. Photoshop, same thing. Here you see the shortcuts for Photoshop. Pretty much everything you do on a computer, you can do through a shortcut. Every mouse action you can replace. And you're already doing it. You're already replacing Control-C, or the mouse click to select and copy and paste. You're already doing that using Control-C, Control-V on the Windows, or Command-C, Command-V on the Mac. You may already be closing your Windows using Control-W or Command-W, and your applications, quitting your applications by doing Command quit or Control quit. So much faster than seeking that spot in the corner of the window and click that with your mouse. Now, these are operation system shortcuts. You can create shortcuts, if they're not already there, for every application you use. And if there are applications you use a lot, then this is what you should do. And in Mac, it's very simple to create shortcuts. Windows, you can do it too, maybe a little bit trickier. I don't know how Windows 10 does it these days, but look into it. You will save a lot of time. Now, the apps I'm looking at will also have to do with entering data in a more efficient way. This is a logo for a text expander, and it's an E with ... This is the logo of Type It For Me. It's the Mac text expander I've been using for many years. What it does is, if there's a phrase or a particular type of text you type a lot, you replace that with a very short snippet. For instance, if you type your address every day 2-3 times, you don't need to do that. You can replace your address with, for instance, the word address with a AA at the front, because otherwise, each time you just type the word address, you'll actually have your address printed on the screen, which you don't always want. So you use an abbreviation that you don't normally type. So when I want to put my address in my emails, I type AADDRESS, and it gives me my full address. So text expanders will save heaps of time. This is probably one of the apps I use more than anything else. It's also one of the more expensive ones, but it's a no-brainer once you realize how often you use them. I now have probably close to 1,000 shortcuts Some of them I use a lot, some of them I use rarely, but it's great. Next, application launchers, available for both Windows and Mac. This is the logo for Colibri. The Mac one that you must have is called Quicksilver. I launch every application with a shortcut. If I want to go to my calendar, I do Command K. If I want to open Scrivener, I do Control-Shift-S. I've got something for, even to open my a PDF that has a list of websites that have free photos, I do Command-Shift-P. You can open documents that way. So stuff you do often, automate it. Every business does it to save time and money. They automate. You can automate, and you can save heaps of time. And yeah, it's fun. This is the logo of Backblaze. Anyone know what Backblaze is? Some of you are using it, I know. It's a backup software. It backs up locally to your computers. It can also back up in the cloud. It's the best value version. I'm also using CrashPlan. I always use two because one may be failing, and these are fairly low cost. So make sure you have more than one backup application. Dropbox is a good one, but it's a lot more expensive. I use Dropbox, but only for the projects that I'm working on right now, because Dropbox also keeps versions, and I think that's pretty good. This is the logo, or this is the icon for a clipboard. I use a clipboard app. It keeps in the memory of your computer everything you copy and then later paste. So normally, if you don't have this app, you copy something, you paste it. The next time you copy it, the first thing's gone. And often you want that first thing back. So what a clipboard app does is it actually keeps all that in the memory. And instead of doing Command V or Control V, you actually do Shift Command V, and you go to the previous thing you've copied. Check it out. When I talk about it, it's probably easy, not so easy to understand, but when you use it, it's much easier. I think the one I'm using is Cliphand's no longer available. I think Clipboard Manager is one, and Windows has heaps of options as well. I mentioned earlier that there are applications that can help you with Pomodoro. Now, this is the logo for an application called Timeout Free, which I use to, remind me to take a break. And if I set that to 25 minutes, then basically what it does is it segments my day into Pomodoros. So a break reminder sets a timer, and you can decide when you want that break each time it will come in. The great thing about Timeout Free is it has micro breaks and normal breaks. And as I said, with the Pomodoro, you have 3 Pomodoros and even longer breaks. So you basically program 2 mini breaks, and the third one is your longer break, or your fourth one is a longer break. So as the name of the app says, Timeout Free, it is free. So for Mac users, why not giving it a try? The cloud app, one of my favorite ones. It's called Cloud App, and it is a little cloud in the top bar of my screen, in the menu bar. What it does is I just need to drag a file onto the cloud and it will upload. Okay, so if I want to send you a file, if I want to send you the bonuses for the story series course, for instance, I've got them on my desktop. I just drag them on top of that cloud. It will start uploading, and in the meantime, it has already put a link in my clipboard. So all I need to do is paste the link in the email. Done, and you can download it. The Cloud app has a lot more functionality, but check it out. And again, there are many of these available for Windows as well. This one, sadly, is not available for Windows. This is called Undock. As you know, everything that's connected to your computer, disks, USBs, you need to safely remove them, otherwise the data can be corrupted. And that can be a pain in the neck. Right now, I've got 6 things connected to my Mac. 4 of those are drives. So each time I need to disconnect those, I would have to go through that routine. Do you want to safely disconnect? You have to wait until that happens and so forth. What Undock does is does it all in one go. You just click that icon at the top of your screen. It sits again in my menu bar. Click that, it will disconnect everything. So if ever you need to leave your home quickly, you don't have to wait, you just click that and it's done. I love that ease. Where I can save time, I will do it. This is not part of the 7 I'm going to mention it anyway. That's for people who have problems with discipline when it comes to Facebook. It's a free Mac application. And again, I'm pretty sure there's a window version of this that will block any website you like for a time that you set for yourself. Whether you want to stay off Facebook for half an hour or for the rest of the day, you can set it. And the great thing about this app is once you've set it, that's it. Even if you uninstall the app, you will not be able to access Facebook until the time's run out, because that's the whole idea, isn't it? It's called self-control. Now, what can we use for the tablets? Actually, I've forgotten one, but I'll go into this in more detail in the ebooks. This is IA Writer. It's a beautiful, simple, distraction-free text application, and use that for pretty much anything. When I start brainstorming, I write down stuff here, and then later I format it. So it's called IA Writer. There are, again, more versions, more options than this, but we can look into that later. Back to iOS or Android. Obviously, hundreds of thousands, probably millions of apps are available. I'm not going to go into those, except for one that I totally adore, and I'll put more detail in the ebook. Notability. I can import PDFs. I can mark up the PDFs. I can write on it, and it's beautiful. The writing looks like a felt pen. Even if you write with your finger, it feels like you can, push harder, and then you have a thicker line. I love it, and you can have markups in different colors. I find it extremely user-friendly. You can then export it to a PDF again and import it in your computer. So that's an iOS application, Notability. I don't think it's available for the PC for computer. This is an example of a timer or a sleep app, and obviously, with all these examples, the question may have arisen: am I happy with my Mac or my Windows? Should I be with Windows or should I be with Mac? I mean, it's a discussion that has been running in my head, or that used to run in my head a lot, because I like to have a lot of options, and there's no the universe, the ecosystem, as they say, for the PC has a lot more options than Mac. But although the Mac options are limited, they usually work, and they're usually beautiful. So you need to pick which one works best for you. I picked Mac a few years ago, and I think for creative people, it is often worth the investment. They keep their price. So my first Mac, actually only paid $70 to use it for 3 years, because I bought it for $770 and sold it for $700. They keep their price. They're robust. So I think the value for money is probably similar to PC. Only the vibe of working with a Mac, I find it more fun than I remember from the PC. Goal setting. Obviously, screenwriters amongst you all want to win that Oscar, or you want to get a first 10 listing in the Nicole Fellowship. That's a goal you can set. That could be a New Year's resolution. Now, there's 3 types of goals you can set for yourself. And one type, win Oscar, is one of those. It's a type of goal that you don't really have a lot of control over, because it's out of your hands. The Academy will decide whether you win or not. Another type of goal is to complete a script. You have a little bit more control over that. It's still a big goal. I think the type of goal that will give you most benefits is to write every day. Just do something that you have fully control over, and that will ultimately lead to achieving the other goals. So yes, by all means, do set a long-term goal, but then every day focus on the process, focus on the stuff that you can do right now. Make that your main goal. And then where I go completely against the Stephen Coveys and the David Allens, I'd say as creatives, that long-term goal setting doesn't always work. Meticulously sticking to a schedule is often counterintuitive. Yes, you need to work, but do look at opportunities. And when an opportunity comes around, respond to it. That's how I've lived my life, more than really, persistently pursuing the long-term goals. And I find that looking at opportunities and maximizing them is often more effective and takes less energy. So fire and forget, that's really the idea behind it. You do your work and you don't worry about the outcome. Just do whatever you can do, and then you'll see what comes from that. And ultimately, you will love the process. And if you love the process, if you love the work you do every day, then ultimately, you'll love your life. Everything will be so much more enjoyable. So fire and forget. Don't worry too much about the long-term goals. Let's talk about money. We're getting close to the end of our webinar. Now, the thing with creatives is that we often feel that we don't really need to be rewarded because we love what we do. All right, we'd happily do it for free. We'd do it anyway, even if people don't pay us. Well, that is wrong. All right, you need to make a living, so you need to get used to invoicing. At some point, you are providing a service and you need to get paid for it. Of course, there are exceptions, and sometimes you want to create leverage. And for a limited period of time, and you decide how long you're going to do that, you may be volunteering or interning, but at some point you get to a stage where you need to invoice, and then you need to be happy with that. You need to tell yourself that you deserve that, you earn that money. And so yeah, invoice. I use a software called Sasu. Used to use MyOb, MYOB. I hated it. Now Sasu, same price roughly, much easier to use, and future-proof. Plan your year. Set yourself goals. Where do you see opportunities to make money? Now, as I said, fire and forget. Once you've done your year, just look at the short term. Do a prospect sheet. Where do you hope to get money from? Then follow up with those. And then when you feel the momentum, create a chart and you see your improvement. For me, it was inspiring, and it was encouraging to see that when I started invoicing, money started coming in, actually made more and more, and up to a level where you're quite comfortable and you're happy with it. But the basic thing is the mindset. You need to get used to getting paid for something that you love doing, because that's how the world works, and otherwise you will not be able to continue doing this, and that's really important. All right, the final point in our webinar today is about switching off. And just as I spoke about the morning routine, ideally you should have an evening routine or a night routine. I must confess, I don't really have one, but I'm working on it. It will help you to prepare your body to go to sleep. You'll have a better rest, and ultimately, again, you'll be more productive the next day. So that's one aspect of switching off. There are more aspects. I always switch off my phone, and some of you know this. I'm not easily reachable. I'm not easily contactable. If I'm working, I do not have my phone on. I have it off unless otherwise, unless I need it. I try to make phone calls when I'm in transit, in the car. I invest in a cheap Bluetooth device so you can speak hands-free. Television, I switched that off. I switched that off in 2000, never switched it on ever again. I don't even own a TV set. Yes, I do watch TV shows when I choose to. All right, news, I will watch on the internet if I choose to, when I choose to. So it's great to have that power, and you will save tremendous amounts of time. It's also a sacrifice I think you need to make. As a creative, you cannot live the life of the mainstream and just come home and sit at a television. I can guarantee you that will not work. You won't get there. So switch off that TV. It's a tough decision initially. You will feel relieved and freed and liberated. I haven't watched TV since 2000, unless I was, at a friend's place where it was on, and then it can actually be quite exciting to catch up with what's going on. Anyway, I don't even watch video news on the web because I find it a waste of time. I read my news, goes a lot quicker, and often the video doesn't really add much value. But that's a personal opinion. Sometimes it's just fun to watch a cat video. Why not? It's not particularly news. Anyway, self-control, we have mentioned that. The Windows version is browse control. That's another way of switching off if the social media are a problem for you. And then I mentioned it, the night routine. Design your own and go into the night in a way that's enjoyable. All right, that's the presentation part of it. In the meantime, you guys have left a lot of comments here. I'm going to see if there are any questions. Now, someone's put their hands up. Leo. Now, what I could do is I could give you a voice, but I've never done that before. It feels a bit... maybe I should try it. Leo, I'm going to give you a voice. We'll see what happens, okay? So you probably have a question. It'd be great if you could ask that question. So I'm going to invite you as a speaker. as I said, there's a bit of a lag between the video and the chats, so it may take a while before we hear Leo. Now, hopefully Leo has his audio on. In the meantime, I'm going to go through your remarks here, see if there's any questions there. Yeah, Clive says, never write for someone else without payment. Has never had a problem with invoicing. So great. Vinay sadly had to leave us. Katja says, the Mac is better than any relationship. So true, isn't it? Dom's had his MacBook since 2009. It's still running. That's nearly 6 years on, 7 years on. Fantastic. Pietro runs Windows on a Mac. Now that's great. I used to do that, and it runs better. It's more stable. It's faster. That was my experience back then. So yeah, and you can, if you want to, you can switch back to your Mac if you want to. Hang on, what is this? A joke with my wife saying that on her gravestone, I'll say she had a clean house. That was Guy. Yeah, procrastination, hey? Should do one about that. Jane says, I get up at 5 a.m. most days, go to bed really late. Housework's my downfall. Oh, yeah, okay. I'm reading things backwards. Here, I've got a question from Suzanne. What are some names of wake-up apps? Suzanne, the details are in the ebook, but I can recommend Sleep Time. That's the one I use, Sleep Time. There's also one called Sleep Cycle. I've tried one that needed hardware, and I ordered a piece of hardware that was, an alarm clock, a physical alarm clock that was advertised on Amazon for, a JB Hi-Fi here in Sydney for $250. I didn't spend that money because I saw it on Amazon for $37, and I could have it shipped for $7. Physical alarm clock. So I tried that, and it was absolute JB Hi-Fi nightmare. It didn't work properly. So Sleep Time and Sleep Cycle, they're both for $7 for iPhone. To try that. I'm sure there's similar versions for Android. Now I think we've got Leo. Hi Leo, how are you? Sleep Cycle.
Hey.
I can hear you in the distance. You need to speak loud, and then we can have a conversation.
I'm low.
Good. Now I can hear you now. You had a question, did you? How are you?
Good. Hey.
I can hear you in the distance. You need to speak loud, and then we can have a conversation.
I'm low.
Good. Now I can hear you now. You had a question, did you? How are you?
Good. No, I don't know how to do this. I'm looking.
Oh, you're just looking. You accidentally hit the request button, but that's okay. You could always type your question in there. And there's also a terrible lag on the line, and I can hear myself coming back with 30 seconds delay. So Leo, I'm gonna mute you. I'm sorry about that. So next time I better be prepared. I've got Ruby here with a question. Ruby says, do you believe in number of hours of sleep? Great question. Yes, I do believe in it, but it's different for everybody. So I used to need 6 hours and 45 minutes. You can try, you should basically try. You make sure that you go to bed under normal circumstances, and you don't set an alarm, and then you see what time you wake up and how you feel. And do that a couple of times, you'll figure out how much you really need. And you can try the alarm, and then bring that earlier and earlier. That's another way. Yes, I believe in the number of hours. 6:15 is what I need now, and I use that as a guide when I set my alarm. Let's see, other questions. Angelina, is there a directory of producers in Australia? I think that's a different topic, Angelina. I'll do a webinar about marketing for screenwriters. I've just finished a whole program for screenwriters marketing, and I'll let you know when that goes live. But that's not really something I'll go into here, because I think we've got a lot of people who are not necessarily screenwriters on the call. Okay, what else? Okay, some people have had issues with sound. Now, I'm almost certain that has to do with bandwidth, because I'm connected with cable here, and I'm at a fairly good bandwidth. Katie, your morning routine doesn't work if you have to get kids to school. How do you stay in the zone as creative parent? Great question. Katie, I do have a kid that needs to get to school. My son Baxter, his school starts at 9 o'clock, and I used to drop him off at 3 minutes to 9 or 1 to 9 or at 9 when the school bell was ringing. That was the reality, and he can confirm that until 2013. All right. So now I drop him off at 8 o'clock because he loves being there at the first. He loves playing in the morning before school. Some mornings we spend together, and I still drop him off at 8:30. But the routine does work. I mean, I can only speak of one child. Obviously, if you have more, things get a little bit trickier. And I cannot speak for that sort of situations. What I can say is take on board the recommendations I give you and see how you can improve your situation. And I'm sure that it will improve. You know, by getting up earlier, I managed to get everything out of the way by the time I would wake up Baxter. So, you know, if I say that at 20 past 7 I have breakfast, that means I've woken up Baxter at 7:15. You know, we have breakfast together, and he's got all the time in the world to leave. Now we will probably move at some point this year, and things will be different, and then we'll have to amend that routine again. We'll have to find something else. Okay, let's have a look more. Craig doesn't like coffee. So, Craig, do you drink tea? Don't you need any caffeine? Suzanne asks, what is wrong with caffeine? Nothing is wrong with caffeine. But if you use caffeine on the short term, it'll have. I mean, my experience was that it backfired, and you need to just keep taking that caffeine. Ruby asks if my breakfast concoction porridge is mainly with fruits and nuts. Yeah, great question, Ruby. I used to have this super healthy breakfast with lots of fruit. Now I learned that you can come down fairly badly from that because it may contain a lot of sugar, and some fruits are very high in sugar, and that's not ideal for your breakfast. So yes, there's a little bit of fruit in that porridge, but not a lot. So I said there's dried prunes. We do some grated apple, and sometimes put in a nectarine, but not too much. But it's a far cry from my super big muesli bowl where I would have an entire banana and an entire apple and an entire nectarine, and I would be buzzing for 45 minutes, and then it would go down. So that doesn't really work. Katja, if you need to work, how many hours would you suggest writing would suffice? Okay, here it's again experiment. Different people have different routines. Some people write for 8 hours. Some people say 4 is realistic. If your routine is 4 and you go into the zone, you feel that you want to add another 4, and that is 2 schools of thought. One says, well, obviously you're in the zone, you continue and you use that energy, use that inspiration. Other people say, no, you stop right there. And it'll be easier to get started the next day because you start from the flow. You know what you want to write rather than having to start from scratch. If you end on if you go through the high, you come back to the low and then continue the next day, you start on the low. If you end on a high, then you can start again on the high. So that's great. So Pietro asks, do you use Pomodoro when writing? Definitely, I do. How long were you able to stick to the routine so far? Okay, great question, because this is what you guys are going to be facing once you start going into it. The getting up, I've done for 3 years. Now, I was ambitious. I wanted to get up even earlier, 4 o'clock, 4:30, that didn't work. So it's now between 5:30 and 6. Basically 5:45 is the latest. The meditation was the hardest. I continued for 4 months, then dropped off, and then I needed a Kickstarter there again. I did another course, and then I got back into it. But yes, my routine's been going for 3 years. So it looks like it's going to be a lifetime thing. Gavin, do you recommend writing first in the morning, given that I still work a full-time job, and does the morning routine include time for this? Yeah, I do recommend writing in the morning because obviously if you have a full-time job, that job will inevitably drain some of your energy. No matter how many elements you put into place. When you come back, you will not be in the same shape as you will be at the end of your routine. So maybe you should try and get up even earlier. If you have a full-time job and you get up early in the morning, it means that you will be tired when you come home. All right. The mindset thing you need to accept then is that you will not be able to watch TV for 2 or 3 hours. All right. And our body kind of feels that we earn that. We deserve that sort of entertainment. But that is all in your mind. You don't need that, you know? So if you can go to bed a little bit earlier at night and get up in the morning, then you use the best hours for your writing. And ultimately, I genuinely believe that whatever you do creatively is what is the investment for the future. Because many jobs that we do are day to day. You know, they don't really build anything for the future. So you need to ask yourself: is my job building something for the long term, or are your creative efforts building more towards the future? So invest the best of your energy in what is most important for you. Amanda has to go. See you later. We're going to wrap up in a minute. I'll do 2 more questions. Mark says, how do you stay in the creative mindset over a sustained period of time? Yeah. Okay. So it sounds like this takes a lot of effort, a lot of energy. And after a while, you get drained. The opposite is true. I used to need holidays. I'll go back to camera now because he'll stop screen sharing. Okay. So I used to need these holidays. A couple of times a year, I would crave a holiday. Okay. I don't any longer. Every morning, it's like a reboot. I honestly, and this is not, I'm not selling a program here because, as I said, this is what worked for me. You need to try if that works for you as well. The yoga and meditation is a big part of that. It is a daily reboot, so I don't need the holiday. Can you sustain it over a longer period of time? I can tell you that last year I had a very, very busy period of teaching. At some point, I was teaching 30 days in a row without break, without weekend. 30 days, and that went fine. That went absolutely fine. I was just as happy on day 29 as I was on day 5, because most people don't even know that that's what I did. And some of you were in my class during that period of time. Some of them at the end of that stretch. So yes, it's possible. You can do that, and I even find that this program gives me a lot more ideas in terms of how to further refine my routine. During my yoga, during my meditation, this is not the idea. The idea is that you don't think, but thoughts come to your mind, and very often these are thoughts of what you should be doing for the rest of the day, and that's fun. Okay, final question, Gerardo. What do you think about entertainment versus productivity? Entertainment isn't inspiration too. Depends on what sort of entertainment. Yeah, if you watch a Hollywood movie, it can be inspiring, but it's on a different level. It's escapism on a level, it's proven comedy is great. Comedy will bring us in a good vibe, will make your body function better. That's proven. That sort of entertainment is that is actually beneficial to you. And I'm sure that fans of Tarantino, they will feel better after seeing Hateful Eight. I think it's a great movie, but it's not my cup of tea. I did not feel better after that. It was entertainment, but no, that didn't work for me. So you need to see what works for you. And entertainment, I think it's a difficult point. Craig, I'm going to answer your question in the ebook, and I would welcome any of your questions. You can email them, you can put them in the chat. I'll leave the chat open for a few minutes. What I've completely forgotten here is to give you the opportunity to sign up for the ebook. So there it is. So now you should see it in the sidebar. That's your link to pre-order the ebook for $9. It will be offered for a higher price later. It will include the replay, but you guys get the replay anyway, so you don't need to pay for that. And any questions you might have, email them to either my address that you can find on the various websites, post them here in the chat. I will keep that chat and I will answer those questions. In my previous webinar, which was about adaptation, I created I think it was about 25 pages ebook with answers to the questions. So it's worth posting those questions. All right, it's been fun. I'm very happy to see that you showed up. I think at some point 75, maybe even more of you were present. That's pretty good because we had about 100 registrations. So I'm very happy with the turnout. Thank you for that. The next webinar will be in 2 weeks' time. It's more screenwriting oriented. We'll look at how to write a synopsis. And the next more broader webinar will be in 4 weeks' time. It'll be about WordPress for creatives. So how to set up your own website. I've been promising this for a very long time. A lot of people have been asking me. I apologize that it's taken so long, but in 4 weeks' time, I'll do a webinar about setting up your website. And by all means, please email me with recommendations. I'd love to answer to your needs and your questions. So what would you like me to see? What would you like me to see do a webinar about? Someone wants marketing, how to get your scripts to producers. We'll certainly do that at some point. So the idea is a webinar every 2 weeks, and just let me know what you would like to see. Okay, thank you for joining us, and I'm hoping to see you in 2 weeks' time. Bye.